We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. US President Biden issues a one-word caution, don't, to Tehran as Israel prepared for a possible barrage, says expecting Iran to attack Israel sooner than later. As more and more conflicts emerging in Middle East, several countries including India issues travel advisories for Israel, Iran. Austrian Airlines suspends flights to Iran. US Vice President Kamala Harris blames Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump for the loss of abortion rights in Arizona 3 days after a court upheld a 160-year-old ban on the procedure. Russia-Kazakhstan battle worst floods as major rivers burst banks. Authorities in Russian city calls for mass evacuation. And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reiterated India's firm stance against cross-border terrorism, says terrorists don't play by any rules. They should not feel safe if they are on the other side. Well, on to the details now. US President Joe Biden gave his stern message to Iran, which has threatened to take military action against Israel, is don't. Speaking to reporters at White House, Biden said his expectation was that an attack could come sooner rather than later. Biden also said his grim outlook was based on intelligence reports that he is not at liberty to describe further.
I want to get a secure information, but my expectation sooner than later.
What's your message Mr. President to Iran in this moment?
Don't. We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed.
Well, amid the ongoing tension in the Middle East, several countries, including France, Poland and Russia, have warned their citizens against travel to the region. Germany also warned its citizens to leave Iran, saying that there was a risk both of a sudden escalation in Tehran's existing tensions with Israel and that Germans might be at risk of arbitrary arrest in the country. Austria's foreign ministry followed Germany in urging its citizens to leave Iran. In response to escalating tensions in the region, Austrian Airlines said it was suspending all flights from Vienna to Tehran until April 18th. Whereas French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs also advised its citizens against traveling to Iran, Lebanon, Israel and the Palestinian territories. UK told its citizens to avoid all but essential travel to Israel and Palestine over the possibility of an attack on Israeli territory from Iran. On the other hand, India on Friday issued an advisory urging its citizens not to travel to Iran or Israel following a sharp rise in tensions between the two sides. Ministry of External Affairs in a statement said, in view of the prevailing situation in the region, all Indians are advised not to travel to Iran or Israel till further notice. The Indian Embassy in Israel also asked Indian nationals in the country to avoid unnecessary travel, remain calm and follow safety guidelines issued by the local authorities. All right, the first trucks carrying food aid entered Gaza through the newly opened northern crossing point. Israeli army released video of 8 trucks entering Gaza as Israel stepped up supplies following mounting pressure to ease the humanitarian crisis in the enclave. The military said the trucks which were bringing food into Gaza were inspected at the Karim Shalom crossing point on the border with Egypt before moving north to cross. And the Chinese and Japanese Coast Guard had an exchange near the territorial waters of the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Friday's face-off came after the leaders of the United States, Japan and the Philippines held talks at the White House on Thursday to reduce Beijing's pressure on Manila and Japan in South and East China Seas. This report provides context.
as if taking an affront to the trilateral summit between US, Japan and the Philippines that took place on Thursday. Chinese Coast Guard said on Friday that they had patrolled the territorial waters of Diaoyu Islands. These are the same disputed islands that Japan controls and calls the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea.
I would like to stress the following points. First, China has indisputable sovereignty over the islands in the South China Sea, including Renai Reef and their adjacent waters, and China also has indisputable sovereignty over the Diaoyu Islands and their affiliated islands. China's actions in the East and South China Seas are reasonable, lawful, and irreproachable in accordance with international law. Secondly, there has never been any problem with freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea.
Japan Coast Guard said in a separate statement that its patrol boats had asked 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels to leave Japanese territorial waters. The Japanese said it was the 10th such instance by Chinese vessels this year. At a White House reception for Prime Minister Kishida earlier this week, US President Joe Biden had stated categorically the extent of the US commitment to Japan, mentioning Senkaku by name.
And through it all, our commitment to the defense of Japan under Article 5, including the Senkaku Islands, is unwavering.
The leaders of the United States, Japan and the Philippines held a summit at the White House on Thursday aimed at restricting Japan's stepped-up pressure on Manila in the disputed South China Sea.
It is a partnership born not out of convenience nor of expediency, but as a natural progression of a deepening relation and robust cooperation amongst our 3 countries.
China's increasing pressure in the South China Sea has escalated despite appeals by US President Biden to Chinese President Xi Jinping last year. Japan highlighted the shared values that the 3 democratic countries share.
Japan, the US, and the Philippines are maritime nations connected by the Pacific Ocean and are natural partners. We share fundamental values and principles and have supported regional economic development.
The Philippines and China had several maritime run-ins last month, including the use of water cannons and heated verbal exchanges. The dispute centers on the Second Thomas Shoal, home to some Filipino troops stationed there on a warship that Manila grounded in 1999 to reinforce its sovereignty claims. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, including the maritime economic zones of its neighbors. Let's understand the Senkaku Island dispute. In 1885, Japan confirmed Senkaku Islands uninhabited and unclaimed. In 1895, Senkaku Islands made part of Okinawa Prefecture. In 1920, China recognizes Senkaku Islands as part of Okinawa. In 1951, San Francisco Peace Treaty ensures Senkaku is part of Japan and the US exercises administrative rights over the islands. In 1969, a UN report indicates potential oil reserves in East China Sea. 1971, Taiwan and China officially assert territorial sovereignty. In 1992, China claims islands are in contiguous zone. In 2008, Chinese SOA that speed of advanced ships intrude into the territorial waters of Senkaku Islands. In 2010, Chinese fishing vessel collides with a Japan Coast Guard vessel. In 2012, more Chinese SOA intrusions into territorial waters. In 2013, China establishes East China Sea Air Defense Identification Zone. In 2016, Chinese naval ships enter Senkaku Islands for the first time. In 2021, China enacts Coast Guard law inconsistent with international law. In 2023, 16 Chinese vessels tracked within territorial waters in 11 months. Despite China's claim, a 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration found that Beijing's claims have no legal basis. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, French President Emmanuel Macron held a video call with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz from the Élysée presidential palace in Paris on Friday. The two leaders tackled the situation in Ukraine to follow on previous 8 conferences attended by the two countries in Paris and Berlin earlier this year. The call also comes as Macron and Scholz are set to participate in a European Union summit on April 17th and 18th. And Chile's prosecutor's office said the February kidnap and murder of a Venezuelan opposition figure in Chile was ordered from Venezuela and likely to be political. It added that the government will seek to extradite 2 suspects who fled to Venezuela. Hector Barros, a lead prosecutor of Santiago's organized crime and homicide team, said a Venezuelan prison gang that has spread throughout Latin America was responsible for the murder. Chilean police have detained a 17-year-old Venezuelan for the crime. Chilean Interior Minister Carolina Toja said the suspects received the order to carry out this kidnapping. The most plausible hypothesis is that there was some political motive.
Organized crime is involved. They were the executors. The question is what their motive was. According to the investigation, the victim has no connection with the organized crime. There are no elements to consider, for example, a self-kidnapping or any hypothesis. This has led the prosecutor's office to think that the most plausible hypothesis is that it was a potential motive.
Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. People stranded in flood water as a fierce storm swept away Florida. UK has appointed a woman as High Commissioner to India for the first time. Around 10 to 15 sea otter pups introduced to surrogate mothers.
We are looking at a seminal contest that's happening in the South China Sea between China and the Philippines. Why is this conflict intensifying in the maritime domain?
We see Xi Jinping in his 3rd term. His entire legacy in third term was bringing his old glory of China back.
With Philippines, it has worked out. If we can strike similar deals with other countries, then I think the fact that India is trying to emerge as a security and defense partner, it has to sustain that by entering into similar deals with other countries.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, US Vice President Kamala Harris has flat out blamed Donald Trump for the unraveling of abortion rights in the United States, calling the former president the architect of a healthcare crisis. She made the remarks during a fiery speech in Tucson, Arizona on Friday, just days after the state's top court upheld a law from 1864 criminalizing and banning nearly all abortions. As Tony Waterman reports, the issue is now front and center in a state that could decide who wins the White House in November.
Kamala Harris called Donald Trump out dozens of times during her 15-minute speech, saying the former president wants to take women back to the 1800s, and she called him the architect of this healthcare crisis. More than 20 states have now implemented abortion bans since Trump's conservative Supreme Court nominees overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago, eliminating the constitutional right to an abortion in the United States.
We all must understand who is to blame. Former President Donald Trump did this. During his campaign in 2016, Donald Trump said women should be punished for seeking an abortion. Don't forget that. He said women should be punished.
Polls show that abortion is a top issue for voters this coming fall, and Democrats are hoping that bans like this one in Arizona will motivate voters to the ballot box come November. Arizona is a key battleground state, one that Biden won by just 10,500 votes in 2020. And what happens there could really decide the outcome of this year's election. And Donald Trump seems to realize that abortion could be a losing issue for him. On his social media platform, Truth Social, on Friday, he said the Arizona ruling went too far, that the law is inappropriate, and he told Republican lawmakers to act as fast as possible to remedy the situation. But ultimately, it could be voters who decide. Abortion rights groups in Arizona say they have collected enough signatures to get a measure on the ballot to amend the state's constitution, enshrining the right to an abortion and bypassing lawmakers altogether. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Well, the New York judge overseeing Donald Trump's hush money criminal case rejected the former U.S. president's bid to delay April 15th scheduled trial on the ground that substantial pre-trial publicity would make the proceedings unfair. Trump had sought an indefinite delay, saying media coverage was prejudices against him and finding an acceptable jury in Manhattan would be tough because the borough was overwhelmingly biased against him. But in a decision on Friday, Justice Juan Merchant said an indefinite adjournment was not tenable. And Russia and Kazakhstan battled rising water levels after major rivers across Russia and Kazakhstan burst their banks in the worst flooding seen in the areas in nearly a century. Authorities in the Russian city of Orenburg called on residents to evacuate immediately due to rapidly rising flood waters after major rivers burst their banks due to a deluge of melting snow. Water was also rising sharply in another Russian region, Kurgan, and in neighboring Kazakhstan. The authorities said 100,000 people had been evacuated so far as rapidly warming temperatures melted heavy snow and ice. The deluge of meltwater has forced over 120,000 people from their homes in Russia's Ural Mountains, Siberia and Kazakhstan as major rivers such as the Ural, which flows through Kazakhstan into the Caspian, overwhelmed the embankments. And Russia's Orenburg is battling rising water as levels of Ural River tops 11 meters. Meanwhile, local animal shelter in flooded areas now hosting over 350 animals. Volunteers from other regions have organized van loads of aid for the animals, but shelter director Yulia Babenko said she has received scant assistance from authorities. Earlier, regional authorities called for the mass evacuation of parts of Orenburg, which is home to 500,000 people. Well, although there is still a lot of ice on Yakutia's Lena River, local officials are working hard to stop potential ice dams and spring floods in the coming weeks. The goal is to force certain sections of ice melt faster than others, thus bringing the solidity of the ice cover. Deputy Director of Local River Agency said that with the help of a blackening process, some parts of the ice cover are sprayed with a coal dust. Another widely used technique is cutting deep grooves on ice with chainsaws in shapes of diamonds. Local authorities said that the works that cost about 45 million rubles will be finished by the 20th of April. Well, the people stranded in flood water rescued by the authorities as a fierce storm swept in Florida. Rescuers have been drafted into the effort to get people out of deep flood water. Flooding was reported in several areas in and around the city in northern Florida with gusts of wind over 80 kilometers per hour, downing trees and power lines.
We advise there's 2 patients now. We're working firstly, also supplemental unit for GE 10-716.
And a court in Ecuador ruled that the dramatic arrest of former Vice President George Glass last week was illegal, but he must remain in jail because of his previous convictions on Friday. Glass was convicted of corruption twice and is now facing new charges when he was arrested a week ago during a police raid on the Mexican embassy in Quito. Glass' defense team had argued that the 3-judge tribunal should declare his arrest at the embassy illegal and set him free. The team added that the Ecuadorian government had violated his human rights and international law by authorizing security forces to enter a diplomatic mission. Ecuador has argued that Mexico's decision to grant Glass asylum violates international law, which prohibits asylum for people facing criminal charges. Well, the UK has appointed a woman as High Commissioner to India for the first time. Former intelligence chief Lindy Cameron will take up the role this month. DD India's Oli Barrett reports for more from London.
On social media, Lindy Cameron said that she can't wait to get started and praised what she called the legacy of the man she replaces, Alex Ellis. He is being moved to another role in the UK's diplomatic service. The new High Commissioner will start this month, and she arrives as the UK and India continue to try and negotiate a free trade deal. Lindy Cameron comes from the intelligence sector most recently. She moves from a post as Chief Executive of the UK's National Cyber Security Centre. She's also held international development roles overseeing the Middle East and humanitarian issues as well. And between 2009 and 2010, she worked in Helmand in Afghanistan as part of a reconstruction team there. Before that, she'd also worked in Iraq, Vietnam, Nigeria, and the Balkans in Europe. Alex Ellis welcomed Lindy Cameron on social media to what he calls a lovely job in a fascinating, vast and diverse country. Oli Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
Well, a group of Myanmar junta troops that retreated from their base in Myawaddy to a bridge along the Thai border were attacked by resistance groups using drones. Thai armed forces conducted severe patrolling near the border with Myanmar after the incident. Thai Foreign Minister Baheda Nukhara told early on Friday that no request had been received from the group of junta soldiers who had retreated to the border to cross Thailand. Well, Hungary's allure as a filming destination is soaring among Indian filmmakers attracted by the country's iconic landmarks, low production cost and versatile settings. From Bollywood blockbusters to TV series and music videos, Budapest has been a backdrop for Indian productions looking for a European setting that will not break the bank. Pablo Gutierrez reports for more from Budapest.
Lights, camera, action. This is the latest Indian production shot in Budapest, Hungary. Some of India's most talented musicians are on the stage, ready for their close-up.
Everybody here, sound engineer, is very professional, very committed for the work, for the music. So we really like that attitude.
Playing the bansuri is in Padasnath's DNA. He is the third generation of Indian flute players in his family. Filming music videos in Hungary, he says, has given his productions a unique look that sets them apart from what's being shot in India.
Such a beautiful venue we are in, and it's pleasure for any artist. It's pleasure to be such a beautiful theater. It's sounding so amazing, and we are getting great shots for our video.
The man responsible for this 12-camera music video shoot has worked with some of Bollywood's biggest stars.
Our first biggest project was the name of the movie was Sultan, but one of the biggest actor, Salman Khan, was coming, and we will shoot with them.
And some of Hollywood's A-listers.
Yeah, with Steven Spielberg, the biggest one, Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Donald Sutherland.
Chutor says there has been an increased demand over the last couple of years from Indian filmmakers to shoot in Hungary. His company, Official Films, provides them with a film crew, equipment, location, and film permits, and manages the local budget of the shoot to ensure it gets done on time. From action-packed thrillers to traditional Indian music videos, Chutor's company has filmed 15 productions for Bollywood's market. He expects his business to keep growing thanks to the 30% tax rebate the Hungarian government gives to foreign productions to entice them to shoot in this country.
It's not just the economic incentives that are drawing more Indian productions to shoot in Hungary. It's also the variety of magnificent locations like this one that can be seamlessly transformed into any international backdrop.
And it's not just Chutor and his crew who have Hollywood experience. The orchestra playing along with the Indian musician has scored many Hollywood blockbusters at a fraction of what it would cost in London, Europe's main film hub.
And I think they realize it's maybe better to come here like to UK or to any other European country.
Last year, the Hungarian film industry set record earnings, reaching $700 million in profit. Currently, only the UK tops them in Europe. Production houses in Hollywood East, as film insiders now call Budapest, say great film locations are key for top-notch Bollywood flicks, and Hungary has plenty of them to offer. For DD India, Pablo Gutierrez, Budapest.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. One person killed and 7 others injured in the southern Turkish after the car's cabin collided with a broken pole. Over 40 people rescued and efforts continue to evacuate 134 people stranded in other cabins. 18-wheel truck with a loaded flatbed slammed in Texas, killing 1 person and injuring more than a dozen. The driver was taken in custody and described as a suspect. Every year, around 10 to 15 sea otter pups are found stranded off the California coast, often because of storms separating mother and pup. A non-profitable animal care organization, Monterey Bay Aquarium, introduces surrogate mother otters to the stranded pups in the hope of returning them to the wild. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Election fever grips India, campaigning in full swing across the country. First phase of polling scheduled for 19th April. Indian Army released a video on the occasion of 40 years of Operation Meghdoot. And India celebrates 5th day of Navaratri, devotees offering prayers to seek blessings of the divine power.
We are looking at a seminal contest that's happening in the South China Sea between China and the Philippines. Why is this conflict intensifying in the maritime domain?
We see Xi Jinping in his third term. His entire legacy in third term was bringing his old glory of China back.
With Philippines, it has worked out. If we can strike similar deals with other countries, then I think the fact that India is trying to emerge as a security and defense partner, it has to sustain that by entering into similar deals with other countries.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. US President Biden issues a one-word caution, don't, to Tehran as Israel prepared for a possible barrage, says expecting Iran to attack Israel sooner than later. As more and more conflicts emerging in Middle East, several countries including India issues travel advisory for Israel and Iran. Austrian Airlines suspends flights to Iran. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reiterated India's firm stance against cross-border terrorism, says terrorists don't play by any rules. They should not feel safe if they are on the other side. Well, moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with top Indian gamers. Prime Minister and gamers had a discussion over new developments in the gaming industry. They also discussed how the Modi government has recognized the creativity of gamers, promoting the gaming industry in India. They were also engaged on issues concerning gambling versus gaming while discussing women participation in the gaming industry.
गेम इतनी है कि नहीं अब ये लेके वो आगे लॉर्ड विष्णु एंड माँ दुर्गा के गाइडेंस से अपने भाई को बचाएंगे। यानी आप लोगों का कितना समय जाता होगा इसमें देखता हूँ आगे जाए और हम
ये जॉयस्टिक है, हाँ ये सर आपका कैरेक्टर है और ये जंप बटन है। चलो।
Well, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reiterated India's firm stance against cross-border terrorism. Interacting with youth at an event titled Why Bharat Matters, Opportunity for Youth and Participation in Global Scenario, Jaishankar said that the answer to terrorists cannot have any rules.
So, point is, something like Mumbai happens
and if you do not react to it, how can you prevent the next one from happening? And उनको ये नहीं लगना चाहिए कि भाई हम इस लाइन के उस पार हैं तो कोई हमें छुएगा नहीं. See, terrorists do not play by any rules. The answer to terrorists cannot have any rules.
And Indian Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohan Quatra on Friday concluded a two-day visit to Washington, D.C., United States. During his visit in Washington, D.C., Foreign Secretary Quatra undertook a detailed review of the progress made towards further consolidating the India-US Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership. Foreign Secretary had discussions with his counterparts at the State Department Deputy Secretary Richard Verma and Deputy Secretary Kurt Campbell, as well as other senior officials. He also held discussions with key counterpart officials at the National Security Council, Department of Defense. These discussions spanned the entire gamut of India-US ties, growing defense and commercial ties, supply chain resilience, and contemporary regional developments. Foreign Secretary also had meetings with representatives of leading think tanks and chambers of commerce. The visit is in keeping with the tradition of regular high-level exchanges between the two countries and provided an opportunity to further advance our growing and future-oriented partnership. And now let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. All right, election season is at its peak in India, with parties organizing multiple public meetings as the first phase of voting is slated for the 19th of this month. In order to garner support for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, senior leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah is to hold multiple rallies in Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. Also, senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to hold rallies in Chhattisgarh's Dantewada and Kanker. Also, in order to woo voters and garner support for their respective parties, political parties holding public rallies and roadshows across the country. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi to hold rallies in Chhattisgarh's Bastar and Maharashtra's Sakoli. Meanwhile, Samajwadi Party Supremo Akhilesh Yadav to hold rallies in Uttar Pradesh's Bijnor and Muzaffarnagar. And for more, we have my colleagues joining me from the ground itself on the elections. Well, Gautam from Jalpaiguri and Dibyendu from Itanagar. Good morning, Gautam. My first question to you, Gautam, Jalpaiguri, the second largest city in North Bengal, plays a vital role in connecting the northeastern states with the rest of India. Voting for Jalpaiguri constituency is slated for the 19th of April in the first phase, and in West Bengal, of course, in all the 7 phases. How is the political scene heating up there?
Well, Ipakshi, good morning to you as well. The political scene here has been hot for quite a few days now. We've seen in the area, if we talk about the 3 seats that are going to polls on the 19th, Prime Minister Modi has campaigned here. Mamata Banerjee has been here for several days because there was a storm that hit the area on the 31st in the entire hill region, and that caused a lot of destabilization. A lot of people were rendered homeless as well. 5 people had died on that day itself. So that's been a bit of a political issue here. But if you talk about this region in terms of how it connects to the northeast, it becomes very strategic as well, because it lies in that extended chicken neck area that we talked about in the context of Doklam as well, where Indian and Chinese troops had clashed. So this has a very sensitive and strategic importance as well. And the voters here have shown a nuanced approach through the elections. If you just take the instance of the last general elections and the Lok Sabha elections for Jalpaiguri itself, BJP's Jayanto Roy won with 51% of the votes. The TMC was second with about 38%. And the entire northern hills of West Bengal have been dominated by the BJP in the 2019 elections because of the Modi wave. But if you come to 2021, the assembly elections in Jalpaiguri, where there are 7 Vidhan Sabha seats, assembly seats, 5 of them are with the TMC. That was in 2021, and 2 with the BJP. The left has been wiped out in a sense in this area. So that shows that the voters here can take a nuanced approach to local, regional or statewide issues and then national issues. And that is something that is playing out even this time around.
All right. My next question to you, Debyendu. How you have been to Assam and now you are probably in Itanagar. How is the political landscape there, considering we are just a week away from the elections and assembly polls were also simultaneously held on the 11th of April?
We are on our way to Itanagar from Assam. We have been in Assam since last evening. The situation both in Assam and Itanagar, we have been talking to the people here, tells us that it is the BJP's wave, the Modi wave, that is perhaps, sweeping away in both these states of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. People are happy with the work that have been done in the part of northeastern states of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh by the Modi government at the center, as well as the BJP government here at the regional level, which is at the state level, both in Assam and in Arunachal Pradesh. So remember, particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, which is also holding a simultaneous assembly election, 10 of the 60 seats have been gone uncontested, and the BJP have already won 10 seats here, including the chief minister's seat, Prema Khandu, who had already won uncontested in Arunachal Pradesh. So, of course, in another context, if we talk about, the Congress, which was a dominant force here till about 2015-16, has just been able to file about 19 candidates in the assembly election out of the 60 seats that goes to polls on the 19th of April. So, of course, what people are talking about is the development in Arunachal Pradesh's, especially in the bordering district with China. So, the people here say that the road connectivity, the development, bridges, water connectivity have significantly improved. But what remains a concern for many people in Arunachal Pradesh is, of course, the healthcare sector and more of air connectivity with the state. So, of course, what the BJP tells here is that, after coming back to power once again in 2024, all these issues that have been left out will be taken care of for the northeastern region. Remember, it was the BJP government who had also formed a Northeast Development Council that will look after the development of the Northeast region alone. So, this government's focus in the Northeast region has been paramount and has been significant over the last 10 years, which also leads to a lot of developmental projects happening in this region over the last 10 years. Of course, people here are excited. People here are confident, that the development that the BJP government had done would perhaps bring back the BJP to the seat of power here in Arunachal and in Assam. Yes, back to you, Lipakshi.
All right. My next question to you, Gautam. What are the main challenges, if we talk about them, driving voters' decision in West Bengal and Jalpaiguri in this election cycle?
Jalpaiguri and the wider region here. The economy here is primarily centered around tea. Tea is a major produce in the Duars region. There's, of course, timber as well, which comes from the forest, and some of that has been, for example, teak, cutting down of teak trees has been banned. So that has had an economic impact as well. And there's tourism as well, which is an ongoing development issue, and that brings in all the roads and highways that have been developed that comes under the NHAI. There are roads here, there are national highways that lead up to the border with Bangladesh and with Bhutan as well. So that is something that the voters have kept in their mind. But there are local issues as well that take a lot of prominence. There are issues of tea workers. A lot of tea estates here have shut down in the left's rule that was here for decades because of mismanagement and a lot of political pressures that used to come along at that time. So people are looking for revival of those tea estates as well, and especially in terms of how the overall development of the area takes place. There are certain regional aspirations as well. There have been movements for different states being carved out, different regions being carved out, and these are issues that have to be balanced by the political parties, which is why it's a tough contest here. There are primarily three different political forces in the race here in Jalpaiguri. There is, of course, the BJP, which won the last time. There's Trinamool Congress, which rules in the state, and the left, which is backed by the Congress here. And quite a good fight taking place between them at this moment.
All right. Okay, Debyendu, tell us, as we know the stage is all set up, as you said, 11 polling stations exclusively for female voters have also been set up in the state. What are the key issues dominating that area which can affect the poll, especially in the northeast?
Well, Lipakshi, if we talk about Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, one of the key issues in the first phase that's going to polls in Assam, if I talk about particularly the Dibrugarh region, as well as the upper Assam region, which goes to polls on the 19th, tea workers constitute about 30% of the population. So, of course, their vote would be very significant, and the wages for tea workers here are a significant issue that we have learned after talking to several people here when we have been here. As Gautam also said, similarly in the northern part of Bengal, similar issues of tea workers are being talked about. So in Assam also it is tea workers that will be dominating the challenges of the tea workers, the wages for the tea workers, which also the BJP government here in Assam increased in the last couple of months, will also play a significant role when we talk about who these voters are going to vote on the 19th of April. But if we come to Arunachal Pradesh, of course, development here is a significant issue. The issue about China will be dominating, and the development of the border villages along the Arunachal Pradesh and India-China border along Arunachal Pradesh is, of course, a key issue here. The villages, what we are being told here on the borders of India and China, have been developed under the Vibrant Village program of the government. So, of course, development are some of the key issues here that will be dominating the elections on the 19th of April. Yes, back to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Debyendu and Gautam, for joining us and giving us that update from there. And moving on, voting for the first phase for India's general elections takes place on the 19th of this month. 3 parliamentary seats in the state of West Bengal, Jalpaiguri, Alipurduar and Cooch Behar lie in this phase. A large part of this area falls on the international border between India and Bangladesh, which is guarded by one of the world's largest paramilitary bodies. India's border security force on polling day, the BSF, gets the added responsibility of ensuring smooth and completely above board voting takes place in villages which fall in no man's land between the zero line of the international border and the IB fence. Gautam Roy reports from one such border village, Chitsakati.
One of the world's largest paramilitary organizations, India's Border Security Force, or BSF, has the task of guarding the nation's international borders. Come polling day on the 19th of April, in the first of the 7-phase general elections, it has to play a dual role in Jalpaiguri parliamentary seat's Chitsakati village. Chitsakati and dozens of other villages in northwest Bengal's 3 Lok Sabha seats, which poll on the 19th of April, are on no man's land between the zero line which separates India from Bangladesh and the border fence, which has been erected at a distance of 150 yards on the international boundary on the Indian side. The BSF has to ensure that while villagers have no trouble reaching the polling station, which is across the border fence, no imposters or undesirable elements make it across. What helps the guards is India's digitized biometric identification system, Aadhaar.
We have installed a biometric system here, and their data is already fed into the system. They are free to cast their vote, even if for some reason they can't go themselves because of age or some other reason. We can give them a vehicle.
Chitsakati's villagers say they're satisfied with the arrangements and are looking forward to polling day.
We have no problem moving around. We also have motorcycles and we can move around freely. We have no issues with the BSF even at night. If there is an emergency, they open the gate and let us in.
तो गेट रात 12 बजे था 1 बजे तुरंत गेट खुल देता है आना जाना ठीक है वोट
We have vote here. There is no problem. We can come and go with ease. There is no problem in voting.
The villagers also say what they would like their elected representative to do is to get a bridge across a nearby river, connecting their village to the border fence, fixed so that they don't have to tread a track which gets submerged during the rains. Construction of structures in no man's land can only take place after agreement between both the Indian and Bangladeshi administrations across the border. and they hope the work can be taken forward soon.
अच्छी तैयारी है हम लोग तो वोट देने आते हैं
We vote in every election. The only problem is that the bridge to our village across the river is broken. We use a dry path these days, which gets submerged during the rains. We would appreciate if the bridge could be reconstructed.
नदी का जहाँ नदी का उस तरफ गांव है
Even with some inconveniences, the enthusiasm of these borderland villagers has not dimmed when it comes to taking part in the world's biggest democratic election.
Call it fate or the way boundaries are drawn between nations, that voters of villages such as Chitsakali, and there are dozens of them here in Jalpaiguri and adjoining Alipurdwar, they're caught between the zero line of the border between India and Bangladesh and the fence that's been put up 150 yards away on the Indian side. But does that mean that their democratic rights will be taken away on the 19th when this region votes in the national parliamentary elections? Well, that will not happen. This much has been ensured. With camera person Sumit Haman, Gautam Roy, Jalpaiguri, DD India.
Well, the Indian Army on Saturday released a video saluting the valor of Army personnel on the occasion of 40 years of Operation Meghdoot in the world's highest battlefield, Siachen Glacier in Ladakh. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India celebrates 5th day of Navaratri. The temples recited prayers to goddess Durga, while a large number of devotees gather to offer prayers and take part in the morning prayer to commence the 5th day of the 9-day Hindu festival of Navaratri. Devotees took a holy dip in Sarovar and offered prayers at the Golden Temple in India's Amritsar on the occasion of Baisakhi, also known as the Harvest Festival of Punjab. Baisakhi marks the beginning of the Sikh New Year and is usually celebrated on the 13th or the 14th April every year. India's Assam celebrates the first day of Rangoli Bihu. Bohag Bihu is one of the most important festivals celebrated in the Indian state of Assam that marks the start of the Assamese New Year. The festival, celebrated in mid-April, signifies rich history of ancient Assam culture. And Dubai's vibrant Karama neighborhood is buzzing with the delicious flavors of Ramadan, all thanks to the return of the popular Ramadan street food festival. This year, ongoing event proved to be a haven for the city's large Indian expat community, offering a nostalgic taste of home amidst the festive atmosphere. Over 55 restaurants in Karama participated in the festival, showcasing a delectable array of Indian street food favorites. For many Indian expats, the festival wasn't just about the food. It was a chance to connect with their heritage and share the spirit of Ramadan with loved ones. Launched last year, the street festival has become a huge hit. And Bangladesh is celebrating the traditional Chaitra Sankranti festival today, marking the last day of the Bangla year. On this day, Bengalis say goodbye to the outgoing Bangla year and welcome the new year on Pahela Baisakh through different festivities. Chaitra Sankranti is celebrated through arranging fairs, pita melas, musical events and other festivities. And on to some business news now. Argentina's government takes measures to cool one of the world's highest inflation rates. The South American nation is battling with the rigid phase of inflation. Libertarian President Javier takes cost-cutting measures. Prices of everything from food to healthcare have risen sharply. Hardship felt by millions amid a cost of living crisis. Economists say inflation has shown signs of easing, but 11% is still far higher than the price rise most countries see in the whole year. And U.S. stocks sold off on Friday after major U.S. banks' results failed to impress, capping a week marked by market-moving inflation data, evolving expectations for U.S. Federal Reserve policy and looming geopolitical tensions. All three major indexes fell more than 1% and registered losses on the week. Results from a trio of big banks marked the unofficial launch of first quarter earnings season. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Moving into table tennis now, Indian pair of Manika Batra and Satyan Nasakaran failed to secure a Paris Olympic 2024 quota from the World Mixed Double Table Tennis Olympic Qualification Tournament on Friday. The duo was stunned in the quarterfinals by Malaysian pair of Jae Win-Cheung and Karen Line, ranked 153rd in the world. This was the Indian duo's second and last chance of securing a Paris Olympic quota after suffering a quarter-final loss in the first knockout round on Thursday. And Punjab Kings will lock horns with the Rajasthan Royals on Saturday in the match 27 of Indian Premier League 2024 in Mohali. Kings had so far had a decent campaign, winning 2 out of their 5 games played. With a narrow defeat in the last game against Sunrisers Hyderabad, the host will be looking to come back stronger and climb up on the points table. In tennis, top seed Novak Djokovic will take on 8th seeded Casper Ruud in the semi-finals of Monte Carlo Masters on Saturday. Djokovic reached a record 77th Masters semi-final on Friday when he defeated Australia's Alex de Minaur in straight sets. The 36-year-old faced a hard-fought battle against Australian 11th seed before finally securing a 7-5, 6-4 win over the Australian. Meanwhile, Casper Ruud beat Frenchman Hugo Humbert 6-3, 4-6, 6-1 to reach the semis. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.